Good morning, Metal as your net. Welcome to a new episode of the Metal Meltdown, and today we're looking at the latest studio album from Australian deathcore crew, Thy Art Is Murder. This is Human Target, the band's fifth studio album, and quite frankly, their third attempt at replicating the success and acclaim of their sophomore record, Hate. The album that ultimately introduced the mass majority of metalheads to Thy Art Is Murder. I mean, the first time I heard of Thy Art Is Murder was reviewing that album, Hate, on Bring On The Metal years ago. And yeah, in my opinion, they have simply recycled that formula over and over ever since, hoping that somehow they would get the exact same result, and that hasn't really happened for them. Not that the band is doing poorly, mind you. I think they do pretty well for themselves, all things considered. And it was something that didn't really bother me anyway for a long time because, frankly, I've never been a massive fan of the deathcore subgenre. But here's the thing. Deathcore has changed a lot these last couple of years. In fact, it's changed extremely fucking fast. The pioneers, the biggest names of this genre, have evolved. They have matured. They have ventured into other sounds and styles and aesthetics. Whitechapel, for influence, is delving into much more personal songwriting and influence from American groove metal and new wave of American heavy metal influences, and it resulted in one of their best albums to date earlier this year, The Valley. Suicide Silence also very similarly started getting into much more introspective and personal songwriting, but with them brought in influence from the world of alternative metal. And I know a lot of people like to shit on that self-titled record, but honestly, it's also my favorite from them. And then there's Bring Me the Horizon, a band that arguably spearheaded this entire modern deathcore sound on their debut album, suddenly going into full-blown pop, getting nominated for Grammys and touring with rap artists like Scarlord, making songs with Grimes and Halsey. Like, that's a real flip around. That's a real change, genuine, inside and out. These bands have grown the fuck up. And that is what makes the repetition of this formula all the more infuriating this time around on Human Target. Because not only is Thy Art Is Murder actively just trying to repeat the success of Hate again, but they're very clearly ignoring the fact that this genre is changing. They're very clearly ignorant to what is happening in the world around them. And they're clearly not growing up even a little bit, or even sharpening this incredibly dry formula that they refuse to let go of. Honestly, there's a level of stubborn conservativeness that is on par with fucking overkill. But I can't go as far as to say that Thy Art Is Murder is the overkill of deathcore, because that would imply that at the very least they make consistently good records, which in my opinion they do not. A more appropriate analogy would be they're the tankard of deathcore, because they just make the same thing over and over, and they really don't care so long as some idiot in the crowd has a big dumb smile on his face and a beer in his hand. Sure, you could argue that there is notably more death metal influence within some of the instrumentation. I noticed it myself on the title track Human Target and through various other points in the record. Sure, you can argue that the band at least is working on the general soundscape, the general aesthetic, as this is, all things considered, still a well-produced record. But these are little details that don't make a huge difference in the grand scheme of things, because the songwriting just isn't fucking there, man. Like, they just constantly repeat riffs and sections and entire moments. They actually rip themselves off at certain moments throughout this record. And I don't think I'm exaggerating on that point, because I dare you to listen to the riff in Make America Hate Again, and I dare you to tell me that it sounds any different from Puppet Master from the band's last studio album. I fucking dare you, man. It's actually, in my opinion, kind of laughable how poorly they try and hide how similar these two riffs are. And that's not the only one. Closing track Chemical Christ also blatantly takes from another Thy Art Is Murder song, Reign of Darkness, which is even more ridiculous because that's from Hate. That's from the band's biggest and most well-known album. How could you think that nobody would have noticed that? But don't worry, they don't do that throughout the entire record. Sometimes they rip off bands that are even more well-known and even more distinguishable in sound. making it all the more obvious and blatant and stupid when you realize who they're ripping off. Take, for instance, the track Def Squad Anthem, which features an absolutely laughable attempt at this Meshuggah-esque off-tempo breakdown. It cripples the fucking song, man, which is a shame because I think the main riff is actually kinda catchy. Not the smartest thing in the world, but give me a fucking break. I had to find something to enjoy here. All of these tracks bleed together, they all flow the same ways, they all tend to talk about the same things, they all have the same general aesthetic and presentation. Sure, a solo might be different here, sure, a riff might be different here, but nothing to the point where I really feel like I'm ever listening to anything really that interesting or new or exciting. In fact, the only time that the band ever introduces anything semi-new for them is through the lyrics of the aforementioned Make America Hate Again, a track that on surface level appears ready to just rip into the disgusting nature of the Trump administration, but digging deeper, and especially when you look at official press releases, you learn that Die Artist Murder is weirdly taking a very centrist kind of approach to this. I have a couple problems with that. First off, this whole centrist political aspect is fucking bullshit. I don't want to derail the video, but this idea of like, the left and the right are the same. No, sweetie, they're not. I can't tell the difference. They're both terrible. Well, let's put it this way. When the left got angry, we ended up with The Weeknd and healthcare and civil rights. When the right gets angry, we end up with the KKK and neo-Nazis and Ted Nugent. So, I would argue there's a huge difference. But more importantly to the actual subject matter of the song, it takes the infamous slogan of Make America Great Again and turns it into a pretty obvious little pun, but something nonetheless, and it makes it clear that there is a target. You know, a human target, if you will. And yet, despite their initial poking and prodding at the Trump administration, they don't say anything or do anything really that specific. Like I said before, they're taking a really bland, really safe, centrist kind of position so that they can avoid not pissing anybody off. That translates directly to the lyrics, too. In the chorus saying, hostility, your leaders are now your enemies. They'll make America great again. Fuck no, let's make America hate again. Like, wow, congratulations, you made a really great political fucking statement. Yes, hello, can you get me on speakerphone with Kendrick Lamar, Bruce Springsteen, and Rage Against the Machine? Oh, hi guys. Okay, so I'm gonna need all of you to stop. Don't ever talk about politics ever again, because you'll never be able to top this incredible fucking masterpiece of a statement from Thy Art Is Murder. They really make a bold statement here. The bold statement is, everyone sucks. I know, crazy, right? You know, I was going to give this album a 2 out of 5 at first, and then I settled on a 1.5 out of 5, and now I'm going for a 1 out of 5, because the more I talk about this album, the more I talk about how lazy and safe and predictable and fucking bland it is, the angrier it makes me. Like, this genre is evolving so quickly and so fast, and you guys not only refuse to adapt, but you refuse to even sharpen the tools you are using. You just settled for making the same album over and over again with the appearance of being a little riskier and edgier with some subtle death metal influence in a semi-political song, but again, ultimately just a really safe, predictable, obvious record with the same old riffs, the same old songs that all bleed together into one 50-minute pile of open tab breakdowns and gutturals. Earlier in the review, I said that I don't really care for deathcore, and that's still very much the case, but every once in a while, I can get down with it. Even when I was a teenager and I was really into, like, strictly thrash metal, I could kinda jam with, like, some Suicide Silencer or Carnifex if somebody was playing it in the other room. I guess in that sense, deathcore to me is kinda like junk food. It's not healthy. It's not fulfilling. There are definitely better options. But every once in a while, it's not that bad to have, okay? There's nothing wrong with it. It's okay to have a Big Mac. It's okay to have a Suicide Silence. But that doesn't mean I want a Big Mac every fucking day. And that doesn't mean if I order a Quarter Pounder and you keep giving me that Big Mac, that I'm just going to shut up and swallow it. I ordered something else. Where's my something else? So 1 out of 5, if you enjoy eating the same meal over and over again, if you enjoy just your big, stupid, greasy Big Mac, I won't knock you for it, okay? That's totally your fucking choice. But don't expect me to keep coming back for the same fucking Big Mac when I ordered a fucking quarter pounder, okay? For that matter, when I ordered a significantly better meal from significantly better bands, or I guess in the case of this analogy, restaurants. I don't fucking know. The point is, human target, bland, obvious, predictable, safe, a waste of my time, 1 out of 5, terrible. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? Thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.